English majors and the faculty of education, a student university where the researcher works. I don't know why you are insisting on where the researcher works. This is not a merit. Because you shouldn't teach the program. Someone must teach the program, otherwise, because you are biased to the program. 30 students were chosen according to their willingness to participate. And you say chosen or submitted to the experiment. And at the same time, I want to know the whole population. How many students were in the first year?
First year about...
Not about. Not about.
Yes.
This is statistics.
Exactly 106 students.
So, the sample represented how much? Huh?
1/3. Maybe 1/3.
1/3? No.
No.
ده less than 25%. اللي هو كام العدد كل 100 وكام؟ 160. يا ده العينة is very small. Doesn't represent number which you can depend on the results. Must be more than that. خلاص I understand. We should have asked others to help you. Page 69, the first paragraph. لا في حاجة لا استنى. The program, the second line, the program lasted for 6 weeks. Each of the 6 units was supposed to take 1 week. You have to control everything. Not supposed. Student selection, paragraph 2, the following procedure was used to select students. Random students were individually invited to an interview in which they were given an idea about the program. Did you select them randomly? You didn't select them. You asked some of them to volunteer. Page 70, age. أنا عايزة أعرف you are sometimes you use مضارع ماضي مرة كده ومرة كده. احنا عايزين نثبت بقى على حاجة. حاجة عملتها. ده انت دلوقتي خلصت وابتديت تكتب لنا وبتمتعنا باللي انت عملته. فلازم يكون كله في الباص. يعني since the students are enrolled كله بقى يبقى aware وكده. In the same academic year they were supposed to be on the same age level. And usually we say their age range is between كذا وكذا. As for gender differences, the final group of the study consisted of 24 males. And why you say and only 6 males and 6 males? Because most the dropouts were males. Besides, sex or gender was not a significant factor in the study. Excuse me, page 70. I don't know. Although you mentioned that it is not a factor in the study, but sex is very important because usually females are more clever than males in learning foreign languages. A significant factor in the study was not looking after them. مش عارفه انت معجب significant بس مش significant، ما تتسماش كلمه significant يعني. I want to ask you why you use the word interviewer or interview. Interview has another meaning.
The test is in the form. Sorry, the test is in the form of the test was in the form of an interview, and this is one of the forms through which oral communication is tested.
One of the forms of
Yes,
oral
yes.
communication is interview.
Yes, interview, as far as I know, is one of the techniques, or is one of the forms.
I want to ask you something. Your jury were selected from different places, schools as teachers and inspectors.
Juries?
And yes, the jury.
Jury members?
Yes, jury members.
No, teaching staff.
And professors.
Professors only. Teaching staff, yeah. Teaching staff at different faculties of education. Armenia, Mansoura, Alexandria, Aswad. Teaching staff, jury members.
This is the jury members.
I wrote.
But the teachers and inspectors were to select, to
Help me identify the problem.
listen to the knowledge of how they are teaching and
Yes, and to make use of the knowledge they have in identifying the skills that students should develop.
you said that the test took 120 minutes. Okay?
Same page.
No, page 75, but I'm just asking a question. You said that 120 minutes were devoted for teaching the program. Each lesson.
For each lesson.
Yes. Each lesson, you said 120 minutes. But at the same time, you mentioned that you gave them 10 minutes to take rest.
Yes.
It means that the test didn't take the 120 minutes.
Yes, they are included.
Yes.
Included. 10 minutes are included.
Yes, included in the 120.
In 120.
And at the same time, you didn't tell us the scores of every item.
Scores.
And yes, the items here. Time for the program, yes, 120 minutes. 10 minutes are devoted to rest, to take rest. And every lesson has many activities. Do you think that the time is enough for teaching all this? And in the same time, do you think that is it reasonable to teach 120 minutes or 110 minutes in one setting? It's very difficult. 90 minutes for the lecture, you find yourself very bored.
60 minutes.
60 minutes?
60 minutes, and they will take break, and we will have
You didn't mention.
another 60.
You didn't mention this. Page 75, teaching the program. Methods and techniques used to teach the program. The researcher used many teaching methods and techniques to teach the program. Many is not correct. You should have said 3 methods. Page 80, objectives of the test. The main objective of the pre-pass oral communication test was to evaluate the effect of the MI-based training program and identify the amount of development that occurred in the students' oral communication skills. To identify the amount of development,
The amount
الكلمة يعني.
is level
الكلمة. يعني نغير الكلمة شوية.
amount.
نعم. Page 81. Scoring the test. Second sentence, to each criterion, a maximum of 3 marks is given, i.e. the individual student is given either O or 1 or 2 or 3 for each criterion, or we usually say either from 0 to 3. Page 82, the second line, first sentence, the interviewer is required to write initial scores for each student during the recording, not the recorder. تبقى ناقصة حاجة. تبقى ناقصة حاجة.
The interviewer was required to write initial scores for each student during the recording. During the interview, I will be doing recorded interview.
Page 89. You mentioned that the 6 hypotheses which you have mentioned have been fulfilled, but you didn't say anything about the aims which are stated for the study. You say that the hypothesis has been fulfilled, and at the same time the aims which you are aiming at have been also fulfilled. Students have developed their oral skill.
I mentioned that in the discussion.
عند الرصاص هي ممكن ان انت بعد ما تقول الهيبوثيسيس تقول نص تأليف وتستطيع نظر عشان ده احنا بندور على برضه على الهدف. مش حاجة بسيطة ان شاء الله. The student's background in the secondary school, page 115. The last line, number 6. 115, 115. Number 5. Tell me about the skills that you need to be able communicate with others. Do you think that students can answer this question?
Okay, tell me about the skills that you need to be able to communicate with others. I think that as a future English teacher, we should...
Students.
Yes.
The students. They know?
The future English teacher.
They know? طب احنا قلنا في الأول teachers know because it is already written in the teacher's handbook. How students know this?
The new courses of Hello, they give students directions nowadays. And they tell them learn how to learn, and you should develop your own skills, you should develop your own communication skills. So I think that any good student can, if he follow these directions of the student book, he can identify the skills.
Did you find it in the answers?
Yes, I find some answers related. Few.
Yes. Okay, page 134. From these key propositions, we can derive some other minor propositions. I don't know why you left the space between the second and the third of this. دي لا مغزى ولا جت كده؟
Sorry, excuse me, 130?
34.
34, okay. Leave a space.
في سبيس هنا I don't know why. لها مغزى يعني ولا جت كده؟ في حاجة هنا MIC theory يعني the last four statements MI theory. Number 2, the first one you should say 1. 2, the last one must be instead of the third one because you mentioned smart in 2. Students who read and write well are still smart, but they are joined with other students who have different talents. And the last one, being smart is no longer determined, so I think if you put them after each other, it will be better. Page 135. I don't know why you started by saying the statement saying of course, and the other one yet very important educational decisions.
Because the reference. The references from which I took these statements are written in this document.
It belongs to what?
Sorry?
Belong to what?
References.
اللي انت كاتبه ده راجع لايه يعني؟
Yes, belong to
يعني انت كنت ماشي في for the previous page was correct, but this I don't know. Read it and think about it. Okay? Summary. The first sentence in 1883, Howard Gardner proposed his MI theory, which changed the idea of intellect or intelligence. مش عارف. فكر فيها وشوف.
the idea of intellect. It's written in Gardner's book.
Gardner's. I wanted to make sure of this.
Always Gardner said the idea of intellect. The idea of intellect.
The idea of intellect. The idea of multiple intelligences is opposed to the idea of IQ test that measures the human intelligence. Okay. Number 143. Visual, number 6, visual spatial intelligence. I thought when I read this title, I thought that you will put pictures because you are mentioning the visual aspect. Why didn't you use pictures?
Okay.
It will help communication and in the same time that you are using the visual.
I didn't use this intelligence as a channel to teach the program. I wanted them just to know about it.
يعني
I didn't use it.
if you put the picture and you ask the student to see the picture and to use his intelligence or the MI while they are looking at the picture, I think it would have helped them much. لأن أنت عارف إن الصورة دي بتبقى جزء من المحتوى ده. وإن الصورة بتعبر كمان عن المحتوى، ممكن تحطها كده وكل واحد يستخدم الإيماجينيشن بتاعته وتديله تخليه الأورال كوميونيكيشن بتاعته. يعني هتبقى زي التلفزيون، بتحس إنك أنت مبسوط أكتر. page 148 حالا لا حالا the 8th statements you are mentioning at the title. Here are some examples of these principles or implications. And you said teachers can present the same content in many different ways. Is it an example?
149. 49. You said 48. Sorry,
السؤال
I
هنا
didn't find it.
teachers and campus هنا here are some examples. دول examples ودي examples محطوطة غلط هنا.
There are some examples of these principles or applications. I tried to mention them briefly. To mention some positions for teaching English as a foreign language briefly to the students, because I don't want to elaborate more on this. This is for the students to know.
Maybe the way you have written it showed something different.
Yes,
I didn't get it like this. Okay?
they are directed to
It's
students.
correct, but I didn't get it when I read it first time. Page 183. Lesson 2. Her grandmother's death. انت مش عارفه كان نازل عليك حاله حزن قوي قوي كده يعني، واحنا عارفين ان ده يعني الام اي فيها حاجات زي كده. ممكن بدل ما اقعد اقول كلمتين كمان اقول واحده ما جابتش مجموع في الثانويه عامه، واحده من خبط وفكت، واحده بتاع، يعني الثيم بتاع الموت كتير قوي قوي ايه في الشغل بتاعي. وبعدين المفروض ان انا لما بعرف كونتنت بحط البروجرام بحطه في nature of man, nature of society, nature of content, and I have to consider all these three, which not all of them consider this. يعني النبي بلاش الموت، تاخد لك حاجات تانية في البرنتد برضه بس مش موت يعني. هي لما يقولوا لها ما جابش ثانوية عامة المجموع ده فظيع فظيع. في واحدة كانت دكتورة مش عايزة أقول اسمها، كانت لما قالوا لها إن ابنك في ابتدائية ما جابش مجموع، كانت تقول أنا لو كان أبويا قالوا لي مات كان بقى ما كنت سعدت كده. وصلت حال وقلق الأهالي إن أصبح الموت ما بقى يعني زي ما أبويا هيموت الموت لكن ده أنا أعمل في إيه لو ما جابش مجموع. يعني it was very strange إن واحدة دكتورة وكده توصل بيها بالطريقة دي. لكن أنا عايزة أوصل إن حكاية ما جابش مجموع دي جسيمة جدا. المهم بتقول لك ما بتقول يعني أنا ما هو لازم يموت عشان تجيب. لا خلاص فلسفتها، لكن المجهود هتوديه فين تقعدي جنبها ده من وجهة نظرها هي. لكن طبعا الأب أو الأم دول عمرهم ما يتعوضوا يجيبش مجموع يعيد ويجيب ايه يعني، لكن اللي ما مش رجعه تاني يعيش. اوكي. برضه في حاجات 187 and 192 the same idea of that. معلش عشان بصراحة يعني جالي اكتئاب والله العظيم، هو يعني حرام كده حرام. sad situation كل ما قابل حاجة هنا شفتي دي جت بالصدفة كده. 192 the second line at the beginning I appreciate your kind feelings ولا your kindness بتقولها؟ kindness أكتر يعني. هنا برضو في something which I want to attract your attention to. Page 210. This is, I read it many times, but يعني I captured this in order to show is it correct to write it like this or not. Evaluation at the bottom of the page. Ask your students some direct questions as what should you say or what would you say?
What would you say?
حاجة مهمة قوي عايزة page 365. Section 4, giving opinion and agreeing or disagreeing with an opinion twice. مش عارفة في هنا كده English يعني. Another opinion يعني two things you can't connect them together. The working woman. Working woman. You are talking about the woman or the work of the person herself or the idea of the working of the woman.
The idea of the working of the woman.
هي هنا في يعني مش واضحة. طب انت قصدي ايه؟ ها؟ مش واضحة. آخر حاجة عايزة أقولها page 368 369 370 الأرقام مش مظبوطة غير مطابقة، الجداول لا تطابق بعضها. 370 368 369 You have to put the three together in order to see the difference between them.
Excuse me.
Yes.
I included the two raters.
Yes.
Two raters, and they have different scores.
Add the first rater. Add the rater. 3 for first test scores.
I took the average at the end.
هنا no students no scores.
Yes, this is the average.
والstudents no score للcost. طب وهنا كانت ايه؟ 3 raters.
Yes, and average. And average is the same.
كانت غلطة من هنا معلش. مش واضحة. مش واضحة. مش واضحة يعني تعمل confusion. ده انا مسكت البيجز وحطيتها على الجنب على دي، وخاصه اللي عمل كونفيوجن حاجه 50 دي في الجدول الاخير هي موجوده اهي 50 الافريج 50 وهنا في 50 ده بالك يا دكتوره، فدي اللي عملت الكونفيوجن في اوكي. في حاجه اخر واحده عايزه اقولها، انك انت بتقول او 0.0.01 انت بتقول at 01 level 05 level، هو ده اللي اخيرا انا اسفه ان انا طولت عليكم قوي. بشكر الباحث على الجهد، وفي الحقيقه ان هو عمل جهد جامد جدا جدا، عمل برنامج وعمل للطالب لا الهاندبوك والمدرس هاندبوك واختبار، عمل جهد جامد جدا، وطبعا احنا لا ننكر هذا الجهد، واحنا عارفين ودايما الرسالة الكاملة هي رسالة سيدنا محمد عليه الصلاة والسلام، وان اي جهد علمي قابل نقول بلاش نقول خطأ، نقول للسهو في بعض الأحيان، وعادة الكتب القيمة زي كتب طبع السيرين والعقاد هي اللي كانت بتاخد نقد ومناقشات، فاحنا هنعتبر ان الرسالة دي رسالة قيمة وعليه اخذت مناقشة حامية، ونتمنى له الدوام الترقي والعلم ان شاء الله. ولا يسعني الا ان اشكر الاخت الاستاذه الدكتوره حياه، لان الجهد الشديد ولا بيقولوا الجهد القوي او واضح لان الرساله فيها شغل جامد جدا، وكان الباحث قام بيها، لكن ما كانش يقدر انه هو يعمل هذا الجهد بدون مساعده الاستاذه الدكتوره حياه، اكرر الشكر لها. والاخ الدكتور، انا بقول له الاخ الدكتور محمد، انا بقول الاخ الدكتور محمد، ونتمنى للباحث ان شاء الله دوام التوفيق، وربنا ان شاء الله يجمعنا جميعا يوم مناقشه الدكتوراه محدش عارف. وشكرا.
انا حسيت برضه ان هي قالتها بالكلمه، يعني كل ده هي عرضت.
والله يا دكتوره انا ده انعكس على في البيت عندي، كان كل ما وانا ماسكاها حد يكلمني لخبطوني نسيتوني فالحمد لله هو الرساله كانت شيقه جدا، فكنت لما بمسكها بلاقيني مش قادره اسيبها. فعلا بنشكر الباحث، وعلى راس القائمه الاستاذه الدكتوره حياه. ودلوقتي مش عارفه اقول ايه، مسك الختام بالحبيبه والاخت العزيزه، ونقول الزهره اليانعه في المناقشه الاستاذه الدكتوره ايمان بنتي وحبيبتي.
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. بعبر النهارده عن سعادتي ان انا اكون في جامعه اسيوط كليه التربيه مع زملائي اعضاء التدريس، ودي فرصه سعيده جدا ان ابقى معاكم النهارده، ودي اول مره اجي اناقش رساله في كليه التربيه جامعه اسيوط، وشايفه يعني familiar faces people I love everywhere. ففعلا دي حاجه كويسه جدا ان اشوفكم، وطبعا مش قادره اعبر عن سعادتي ان انا قاعده جنب الدكتوره ابتسام والدكتوره حياه. الدكتوره حياه استاذتي يعني من وانا طالبه، مش عايزه اكبرها، وكانت مشرفتي في رساله الماجستير والدكتوراه. الدكتوره ابتسام ناقشتني وانا طالبه في الماجستير، واستاذتي وحكمت ابحاثي للترقيات استاذ مساعد واستاذ، وانا مش عارفه اقول ايه وانا قاعده جنبيها، يعني بتعلم منها فعلا. انا هتكلم بسرعه. طبعا الدكتوره ابتسام غطت 3/4 الحاجات اللي كنت مجهزاها، لان طبعا هي استاذتنا الدكتوره حياه، ويكفي ان اشوف اسم الدكتوره حياه والدكتور محمد على الرساله عشان يعني تبقى رساله يفخر بها وتبقى على قمه العمل العلمي يعني. الحقيقة يا محمود الموضوع بتاعك كويس جدا، موضوع جديد. So please let me say some things that are good and I like. Your research talked about the theory of multiple intelligences and its varied uses and benefits in the field of teaching and learning. This is very good. You also talked about speaking and the importance of communication. I remember doing a research December 1997 or 8 about oral communication as well. I did a research review and I agree with everything you say about the lack of oral communication, especially at college classes. For example, in my review, I agree with you that opportunities for developing oral language skills are very limited. This is something I agree totally with you. Listening and speaking are always neglected in teacher training courses, even at faculties of education. For most teachers, oral language improvement was ranked as the most important language competence. So your independent variable was very good. And I think you succeeded in your research paper to improve this with your 5 chosen communication skills. Also, you started to relate between the type of instruction that's based on MI and learning in general, and on developing oral communication in particular. You talked also about the studies that dealt with the theory in more detail and in more sub-branches, which is very good. Your review of literature was thorough and complete. I really benefited from it. In the context of the problem, the importance of teaching the oral skills and the speaking skills was very clear. The problem was in the fact that oral communication are not given due attention even in our college classrooms. This was evaluated through your studies review that you provided in your research paper, and we even went so far to make interviews with teachers, supervisors, and even students to emphasize your problem. The importance and the significance of your study is very clear through the fact that it adopts a new theory. I remember about 5 years ago or 7 years ago, a student came to me, a master's student, now faculty, and she came with an article about multiple intelligences. And I was one of her supervisors, and it was still new, you know? And then she came, okay, I came with this article and I would like to experiment with it. I said, listen, Reham, this is new. It will be difficult. Wait till somebody else does something. You know, I'm afraid that if you go start with it, you will not be able to complete it. So you are so brave to translate the theory into practice. This is very applicable. I think many researchers will benefit from it when they work with it later. The importance and the significance of your study is quite clear. It stems from the fact that it calls for much concentration on oral communication skills. And if we look together, there are some inquiries I would like to ask. You see, things I would like to ask about. On page 11, I would say them so fast. The abstract is quite okay, but you could just have added to the second paragraph, after 30 first-year English pages, you could have added Faculty of Education, Assumption University, you know? And then by the end of your abstract, you can just add 2 lines stating the study provided recommendations or provides recommendations and suggestions for further research. That's in your abstract. Just add 2 lines at the end of your abstract stating the study provides recommendations and suggestions for further research. Okay. While I was reviewing your contents or table of contents, I wondered why do you have 2 chapters for the review of literature? Why 2?
Yes, we wanted to speak about the theory and oral communication skills because the theory is new, needs more elaboration. And then I wanted to speak about oral communication skills and speaking skills in particular. Therefore, I reviewed the studies in 1 chapter and I included the theoretical background in a separate chapter.
So it's ignored here.
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah? Everybody does this?
Yes.
Okay.
Most of the people I know did this.
Okay. Also in your table of contents, you have tables inside your work, right?
Yes.
So why don't you have a list of tables at the beginning? You know, you have a table of contents, right? So why not have a list of tables as well, stating the table and its page number?
I think this is.
Yes. Okay.
I try to add it.
Okay. On page 1, you can just add one line at the end of your elements, procedures of the study. Just add this title. It's in there, but just add it. Okay? On page 5, the third paragraph, you say the kind of instruction which is based on the students' multiple intelligences may help the students to utilize all their intelligences in the learning process in general and in developing their oral communication skills in particular. Who says so? Is it your point of view or?
This is my point of view, and before I said may, because I expect that my study, my program may develop the students' oral communication.
So it's your own point of view.
It's my own.
Okay. Also on page 6, in the first paragraph, you say, stating the different kinds of intelligences, I'm sure you forgot and repeated the same title, intrapersonal, instead of saying intrapersonal and interpersonal. The first paragraph, the types of intelligences.
Yes.
Okay?
Yes.
Just, I'm sure it's a mistake in spelling. On page 8, the third paragraph, you mentioned teachers of English in the secondary stage think that the current courses of English are so much loaded with linguistic items. I was just wondering, how many, you didn't write the number here, how many teachers, how many supervisors, how many students? Okay, Mahmoud?
Okay, this I didn't write number because throughout the previous studies and throughout my own interviews with those teachers,
Yes.
I concluded that without remembering the exact number.
So you did interviews, but you don't remember the number.
I did interviews with 20 teachers.
20 teachers
Yes,
and
but the teachers mentioned the related studies. I didn't remember.
okay. On page 9, the third paragraph, you say in the middle, besides, there is no specific or focused training in the oral communication skills in the students' 4-year training program during the undergraduate stage. How do you know? How do you know?
Again, this
The third paragraph, the middle of the third paragraph.
Yes.
Okay? Besides, there is no specific or focused training in the oral communication skills in the students' 4-year training program. How do you know? Did you make some kind of survey?
Yes.
Yes?
No, I didn't make any survey, but this was cited by some people who investigated this program. Like, for example, there, Hannah was cited by me.
But you didn't look at the syllabuses of the 4 years.
I reviewed them because I know the original. I reviewed them, but I didn't find any. I found linguistics. I found that phonetics and, for example, phonetics and grammar, it changed to be a new course. It changed to be linguistic instead of phonetics and grammar. But there is no
Oral communication. Okay. On page 10, this is a very good piece where you provided studies confirming your problem in the second and third paragraph. In the fourth paragraph, you mentioned something about the interviews that the researcher conducted with first-year English majors. And then there was no number about these interviews, or was it done individually or in focus groups? How was the interviews done? Was it done individually with everyone separately or in focus groups?
No, individually.
Did you do it alone or with other classmates?
No, alone. I went to some institutions, some schools, and interviewed some teachers there.
Okay. On page 15, in the hypotheses of the study, I think you should add S to all of them. There would be statistically significant differences between means of scores, because there are two, right? One for the post and one for the pre.
Yes.
So just add S to all of them.
Administration?
Yes. There would be statistically significant differences between means of.
Yes.
Means for all of them. Okay? And there is a question I would like to direct you, please.
Yes.
While I was reviewing the review of literature, I noticed that most of the studies dealt with spelling, vocabulary retention, writing, composition skills, note-taking skills, while very, very few, maybe one, dealt with speaking, and another dealt with transfer of knowledge. So why did you have your hypothesis in the affirmative way? You didn't have many studies confirming that.
There are some studies which were conducted to test the effectiveness of using MI in education in general,
Yes.
and in English language teaching and in speaking. So I built my hypothesis upon the fact that there were studies of MI studies that were conducted on teaching foreign languages in general and English teaching in particular.
Okay. The content of the program, page 16, was based on 4 intelligences only: verbal, linguistic intelligence, intrapersonal, etc. Why did you choose these?
Okay, you asked me the same question while evaluating the whole calendar. Okay, anyway, Gardner said that we can use any number of intelligences. As far as the matter is concerned, we can use any number. There is no criteria.
The criteria for choice?
No. He said that we use any number of intelligences provided that we teach the same content in different ways.
So you think they are just means different
Means.
means of conveying the concept?
Means to an end, not an end.
Okay. Yes. Okay. Let's skip the review of literature because it's very good. On page 41, this is a good explanation. You say, we find that the relationship between communication and speaking is embodied in the following points. These are very good points about the relationship between communication and speaking.
My own. They are my own.
They are good ones. Okay. Also on page 47, there's a nice connection between MI-based instruction and speaking skills. A very nice connection written here. Let's see. Chapter 4. Everything is included in chapter 4. But, some rearrangement of items. If you please open page 68. You say in the experimental design, the present study followed the one pre-post experimental design. And you didn't write any reason for that. Why? Why did you choose one pre-post control design?
Here, I don't compare between the two groups because what I want here, what I aim at is developing or improving skills. Therefore, I saw no reason for using two groups.
So why didn't you write that? Okay, please edit. I chose this design because. Okay. On page 69, you provided in the student selection of the first year, you had your reasons. And you provided the reasons for choosing first year English majors written here in the first paragraph. But you can just add. First of all, it was proved that they lack the necessary oral skills. Just add in the interviews or through the interviews. Okay?
Please, say where.
Okay.
Where?
The first paragraph, page 69.
Okay.
Line 2, 3, 4, line 5. First of all, it was proved that they lack the necessary oral communication skills needed in everyday interaction, as it was clear in the interviews. Okay? All right. On page 70, you mentioned something about the control variables, right? And on page 71, you started to talk again about the variables of the study. So why not have them all in one place? Like variables of the study, you can add the independent variable, the dependent variable, and the control variable. Okay, in one place. As I was reading about the gender, 6 males only because most of the dropouts were males. Such a loss. I think Dr. Ibtisam, it's a phenomenon we are not participating in anything anymore.
Yes, yes.
I don't know what's happening.
This is the reason why.
والله ظاهرة غريبة جدا. ندخل ندرس الدراسات العليا عندنا في الجامعة، عندنا دراسات عليا آلاف الطلاب. الدبلومات كلها الخمس أنواع اللي عندنا في التربية جامعة الدنيا نلاقي يعني مش عايزة أقول 80% 90% في جيمز، ويعني 5 6 كده أو 10 بالكثير، مش عارفة إيه اللي حصل.
ضرب الساعة ضرب الساعة.
مش عارفة إيه الظاهرة، الظاهرة غريبة جدا. فهو هنا حتى بيقول خلى الحكاية فولنتيرلي وبرنامج مفيد جدا للناس، وبرضه بيقول 24 females and only 6 males because most of the dropouts were males. هي ظاهرة تستحق الدراسة يعني. Also on page 70, pre-testing. Page 70. I suggest instead of writing pre-testing, we just write oral communication method. لأن احنا بنتكلم على الثلاث حاجات اللي بنقيس عليها. اللي هي age, gender, academic level, and oral communication. As for validity of the test, I think this part should be added to the tools section, not here. When we're talking about the tools, we talk about their validity, reliability, etc. Okay? On page 71, you say the oral communication pre-post test was piloted with a sample of 15 first-year English majors to test its validity and suitability. So what about reliability? I know you had raises with you, but why didn't you write something about reliability here? You know?
Okay.
So please add it.
Yes, I thought that reliability would be included.
Included in there.
Sorry.
Okay? But please write it. Okay. Also, انتوا بعدين تضيع مجهودك
مش عشان الشكل العام.
كامل. On the same page, page 71, by the end of the page, you mentioned a list of oral communication skills. I think this part should move to the tools section as well, at the beginning of the program. You say something about the list of oral communication skills. Okay, at the beginning of page 72, you mentioned something that you resorted to different sources for the problem and to check for the courses. Why not mentioning something about the faculty courses as well? It's a source of knowledge too. I will clarify it more. On page 72, you say some first-year English majors as assumed faculty of education. You interviewed these, you interviewed the teachers, you interviewed the students, okay? So why not just add that you reviewed the courses as well as a source? You see, these are all sources. Okay. On page 73, about building the program, you mentioned something about, by the end of the first paragraph, types of intelligences were chosen because they were judged to be closely related to oral communication. By whom?
Okay. We were judged to be closely related to oral communication.
Yes. Who said so?
This is my own appreciation.
Your own appreciation?
Yes, because I thought that verbal linguistic intelligence was related to the oral communication skills, and interpersonal intelligence is closely related because it is used to convey what I know, what I have, the message I have to another one or other people. The intrapersonal intelligence is very important because it helps me to express myself, self-expression.
Okay.
And the bodily kinetic intelligence, because expressing myself verbally will be included in or will be related to expressing myself non-verbally or bodily.
So this is your own point.
Yes.
Okay. On page 80, by the end of the page, in the description of the test, you say something about the interview, right? Page 80, the last paragraph. The oral communication pre-post test was in the form of an interview. I have something for you here about the interviews. You can have it. and you can just add a part of it here as a documentation of using the interview. Two sources used here by Underhill 1987 and Coates 1990 recommending using the oral interview for oral performance. So you can use this as a sort of documentation. Okay. You mentioned something about the interviewer. Please add that you did this with other graders. Okay? On page 82, it's only one paragraph here. The interviewer was required to write initial scores for each student during the recorded interview or recording. Two specialists, who are they? You say two specialists.
Yes.
Who are they?
An English teacher and a colleague.
So it's not written here. Please add. Okay? So two specialists and then you open two brackets and you write who are they. Okay? On page 84, I think all your hypotheses were confirmed. This is very good. It's a success indication of your program. But please, Mahmoud, after each table and after you reach a t-value, you say it's significant at a certain level, right? Please add a reference. You say, for example, on page 84, t-value 17.03 is significant at 0.01 level. From which reference does it say so? Please add the reference, okay? And all your results. On page 91, in your discussion section, at the first part, you say this result is consistent with the studies conducted by so and so and so in reading, writing, transfer of knowledge. In the second paragraph, you mentioned something about spelling, reading comprehension. Why not write something here about the study of speaking? Because it will be more related to your own results. Yes? So please add something here about the study of speaking. Also in your discussion, I thought if you can, in the discussion section, there could have been some kind of comparison among the oral skills, because some of them improved significantly more than the other. So you could have added something about comparing them. Why? Do you have reasons why some of them were better than the others?
Yes. I said, for example, that the oral presentation, giving oral presentations improved significantly more than any other of the 5 skills. Why?
Yes.
Because the students began from scratch. They didn't study anything before about oral presentations, and therefore they improved I mentioned.
Okay. On page 95, I think all your recommendations are related to your topic, which is very good. On page 96, I think for number 2, 3, and 4, they can be one, you know. We can say, using multiple intelligences-based activities to teach English as a foreign language in different stages. And instead of saying primary, preparatory, secondary, okay? So please review your suggestions. Some of them can be mixed. Some of them can be mixed, yes? Okay. Also, you can add, Mahmoud, in your suggestions for further research, something about experimenting with other dependent variables, other kinds of intelligences, attitudes. You see? So you can just suggest this in your, for the summary, ما لقيتش فاصل كده
انا لقيت برضه في حاجه ممكن